The new company truck is yours, my dad smiled, handing it to my brother. Best Reddit stories. I was always the responsible one in our family construction business. While my brother Travis partied through his 20s, I worked 60-hour weeks learning every aspect of the company. That Tuesday evening at our family dinner, Dad stood up with a smile. "We have a special surprise," he announced, pulling out keys. "The new company truck is yours," my dad smiled, handing it to my brother as an engagement gift. I sat frozen, the sting of unfairness burning in my chest. Where is everyone watching from today? Hit like and subscribe before I tell you how I finally made my family realize exactly what they had taken for granted. Working for the family business was never really a choice for me. It was more of an expectation, an unspoken understanding that had shaped my entire life. From the time I turned 14, my summers were spent hauling materials, sweeping job sites, and learning the trade. By 16, I could read blueprints better than some of the veteran contractors. While other kids my age were going to football games or hanging out at the mall, I was side by side with my father, Harold Winters, founder of Winters Construction. "This company will be yours someday," Brant Dad would say, patting my shoulder with his calloused hand. "You need to know it inside and out." I believed him. I structured my entire future around that promise. When college came around, I chose to study construction management at the State University just 30 minutes from home so I could still work weekends at the company. While other students partied and enjoyed campus life, I was commuting back for client meetings and emergency site visits. My brother Travis took a different path. 2 years younger than me, he barely scraped through community college with an associate degree in business that he never used. He would show up at job sites when he felt like it, charm the clients with his easy smile, and then disappear for days. Somehow he always got away with it. "Travis is just finding himself," Mom would say, making excuses as she had his entire life. Diana Winters, our mother and the company's office manager, had a special softness for her younger son. "Not everyone knows what they want to do right away like you did, Brant." But I knew the truth. Travis wasn't finding himself. He was avoiding responsibility while still expecting all the benefits of being a Winters. And somehow our parents let him get away with it. Even worse, our extended family members who worked in the business seemed to prefer Travis despite his unreliability. Uncle George would laugh at Travis's jokes and invite him fishing while barely acknowledging my contributions. Cousin Patrick would cover for Travis's absences but report my smallest mistakes to my father. Despite all this, I poured myself into the family business. After graduation, I implemented new project management software that reduced our paperwork by 40%. I researched and brought in advanced equipment that improved our efficiency on job sites. I worked tirelessly to secure contracts with major developers in our area, spending evenings preparing proposals and early mornings meeting potential clients for coffee. Under my watch company, revenue grew by 30% in just 3 years. We expanded from residential renovations to commercial projects, doubling our workforce and tripling our fleet of vehicles. Every success should have been proof of my dedication and value to the company. Instead, it seemed to be taken for granted. Meanwhile, Travis continued his pattern of irresponsibility. He would show up late to client meetings or miss them entirely. Once he ordered the wrong materials for a major kitchen renovation, a mistake that cost us thousands to correct. Another time, he forgot to file for permits, delaying an entire project by weeks. Each time, I quietly fixed his mistakes without complaint, believing that someday my father would see the difference between us. "Brant, you worry too much," Travis would say, slapping my back. "Everything worked out fine. It always does. Because I fix it," I wanted to say. But I never did. Then Travis met Jessica Harrington, the daughter of one of the wealthiest real estate developers in our state. Suddenly, he was showing up to work on time, dressing better, and actually taking an interest in some of our projects. I foolishly thought he might be maturing, finally ready to take his place as my partner in the company, rather than the perpetual problem child. I was wrong. So very wrong. The engagement dinner was held at Salvatore's, the most expensive Italian restaurant in town. Dad had reserved a private room with a long table adorned with flowers and candles. The entire Winters clan was there, along with Jessica's parents and her sister. I sat at the far end, nursing a glass of wine and watching the scene unfold. Travis stood up midway through the meal, his arm around Jessica's shoulders. "I have an announcement to make," he said, his voice carrying across the room. Jessica has agreed to make me the happiest man alive by becoming my wife. The room erupted in cheers and congratulations. Jessica beamed, flashing her enormous diamond ring that probably cost more than what I made in 3 months. Her father, Robert Harrington, looked pleased, probably thinking about the business connections this marriage would create. After the toasts and well wishes died down, my father stood up, a broad smile on his face. "This calls for a special gift," he announced, pulling a small box from his pocket. Inside was a key fob with the Ford logo. My stomach dropped. We had just purchased a new F-250 Platinum for the company fleet last week. Top of the line, fully loaded, worth at least $65,000. I had assumed it would be assigned based on need, probably to one of our project managers who regularly visited multiple sites. "The new company truck is yours." My dad smiled, handing it to my brother as an engagement gift. "You will need something reliable as you start your new life with Jessica." Travis whooped like he had just won the lottery. "Seriously? That is awesome, Dad." I sat frozen, the sting of unfairness burning in my chest. I was still driving my 10-year-old pickup with 200,000 miles on it. The same truck I had bought with my own savings during college, the one I had maintained meticulously because we were always told company vehicles were assigned based on business needs, not personal preference. "Congratulations, bro," I managed to say when everyone looked my way, expecting a reaction. "That is a great truck." The dinner continued, but I barely tasted the food. All I could think about was the decade of 60-hour weeks, the sacrificed weekends, the vacations I had canceled to handle emergencies, all while Travis came and went as he pleased, and now he was being rewarded with a truck worth more than many people's annual salary. The drive home alone that night was the longest of my life. Rain pattered against my windshield, the wipers on my old truck squeaking with each swipe. Every mile marker seemed to remind me of another moment when my contributions had been overlooked in favor of Travis. Like the time I had landed the Johnson contract, our first seven-figure project, only to have my father put Travis in charge of client relations because he had the right personality for it. Or the Christmas bonus 3 years ago that was equal for all family members, despite me working literally twice the hours Travis did. Or the countless family dinners where Travis's minimal efforts were celebrated while my consistent performance was expected. My phone rang, cutting through my thoughts. It was Marcus, my best friend since high school, and one of the few people who truly understood my situation. "That was some dinner," he said. Marcus worked as our head estimator and had witnessed the truck gifting firsthand. "Yeah," I replied, the word coming out more bitterly than I intended. "Your brother did not even try to hide how smug he was. Did you see how he was dangling those keys for the rest of the night? Hard to miss. And your parents do not see it. The way Jessica's dad was looking at them, though, I think he has Travis figured out." Robert Harrington did not build his empire by being easily fooled, I agreed. "I just wish my own father had half that insight." "What are you going to do?" I sighed, watching the raindrops race down my window at a red light. "What I always do. Keep working, keep hoping. Something will change." But even as I said the words, I knew something had shifted inside me. There comes a point when hope transforms into delusion, and I was rapidly approaching that line. The next morning at work was even worse than I had anticipated. Travis pulled up in his gleaming new truck, parking it directly in front of the main entrance where everyone would see it. My father gave me a brief nod when I passed his office, but did not mention the dinner or the truck. Around noon, I overheard a conversation that stopped me cold. I was heading to the break room when I heard my father's voice from the conference room, the door slightly ajar. "The Harrington development will be our biggest project yet," he was saying. "With Travis marrying into the family we have a guaranteed in. I am thinking of making him project manager for the entire development." "Do you think he is ready for that?" It was Uncle George speaking. "That is a $15 million project. He needs to step up sometime," my father replied. "Besides, Brant can back him up and fix any issues that come up. That is what he does best." I stepped back from the door, my coffee forgotten. That was what he thought of me. The cleanup crew for Travis's mistakes. Not the person who had doubled our company's capacity and modernized our entire operation. That afternoon we had a staff meeting where the final nail was patented, driven into the coffin of my delusions. My father announced a new organizational structure for the company. Travis would indeed head up the Harrington development as I had overheard. I was assigned to support operations and quality control. But the worst part came when Travis presented the proposal for the next phase of our current commercial project. It was my work, my proposal, my numbers, my design concepts. I had stayed late for weeks putting it together. Yet there was Travis presenting it, as if he had done it all himself. "Great work, Travis," my father said when the presentation concluded. "This is exactly the kind of initiative I like to see." Travis caught my eye across the room and had the audacity to wink. In that moment, I knew nothing would ever change as long as I stayed at Winter's Construction. I would always be the reliable workhorse taken for granted while Travis got the glory. That night, I updated my resume for the first time in 8 years. My decision was not made lightly. I reached out to industry contacts I had made over the years, people who had seen my work firsthand and knew my capabilities. Within days, I had 3 interviews lined up with competing construction companies. The first 2 went well, but it was the third that really clicked. Meridian Construction was a rapidly growing company with a reputation for quality and innovation values I had tried to instill at Winters. Their owner, Alan Richardson, had competed against us for several projects and had seen my presentations. "I always wondered how Winters kept landing those contracts," he said during our interview. "Now I know. It was you, not your father, who was the secret weapon." The offer came the next day. Project director, a 30% salary increase, profit sharing, and most importantly, respect for my abilities. I accepted on the spot. Walking into my father's office to give my notice was one of the hardest things I had ever done. He was on the phone but waved me in, holding up one finger to signal he would just be a minute. I stood awkwardly, noticing the framed photo on his desk. It was from 10 years ago, the whole family at a job site ribbon cutting. I was in the background while Travis stood front and center beside our parents. "What is up, Brant?" he asked, hanging up. "I need to talk to you about something important." I began, my mouth suddenly dry. "Make it quick. I have a meeting with the Harringtons in 20 minutes. I took a deep breath. "I am giving my 2 weeks' notice." The words hung in the air between us. My father's expression shifted from distraction to disbelief to anger in the span of seconds. "What the hell are you talking about?" he demanded, standing up so quickly his chair rolled back and hit the wall. "I have accepted a position with Meridian Construction. My last day will be 2 weeks from today. Meridian Richardson's company. That is our competitor, Brant, I am aware. This is about... The truck is not it. For God's sake, you are 32 years old. Too old to be jealous of your brother." I felt a strange calm settle over me. "This is not about the truck. The truck was just a symptom of a much bigger problem." "What problem?" "We are family. This is a family business. That is exactly the problem. I have been treated like an employee when it is convenient, and family when it suits you. I have worked twice as hard as Travis for years, fixed his mistakes, covered his absences, and watched him get credit for my work. The truck was just the final confirmation of what I already knew. I will never be valued here the way I deserve to be." My father's face reddened. "So you are just going to walk away from everything we built? Everything I set up for you? You set up for me?" I echoed. "What exactly have you set up for me, Dad?" "A lifetime of being Travis's backup, his safety net. No thank you." The door opened, and my mother walked in, her face concerned. "What is going on? I could hear you from down the hall." "Brant is quitting," my father said flatly. "Going to work for Meridian." Her hand flew to her mouth. "You cannot be serious. What about the family? What about loyalty?" "Loyalty works both ways, Mom." Travis appeared in the doorway, confusion on his face. "What is happening?" "Your brother is abandoning the family business," my father said. Travis laughed, actually laughed. "Good one." "What is really going on?" "I am giving my 2 weeks' notice," I repeated. "I have accepted a job at Meridian." The smile fell from Travis's face. "You cannot do that." "What about the Harrington project? What about all our plans?" "They are your plans, not mine. I am sure you will handle everything just fine without me." "This is ridiculous," my mother said, tears forming in her eyes. "We are family. We work together through our problems." "I have tried that approach for years," I replied. "Nothing has changed. Nothing will change." My father pointed a finger at me. "If you walk out that door, do not expect to come back. Harold, my mother gasped. I mean it, he continued. You are either with this family or you are not. I looked at each of them. In turn, my father's angry face, my mother's tears, Travis's confusion slowly turning to panic as he realized I was serious. I will email you a transition plan for my projects by the end of the day, I said calmly. My new email address will be on it if you need to reach me. With that, I walked out, closing the door quietly behind me. No slamming, no dramatic exit. Just a man finally choosing himself over a family that had taken him for granted for far too long. The next 2 weeks were excruciating. My parents alternated between cold silence and emotional appeals. Travis avoided me entirely, except when he needed information about a project, which was surprisingly often. It turned out there was a lot he did not know about our operations. My colleagues, the non-family ones, seemed to understand. Many quietly wished me well and asked if Meridian was hiring. A few even admitted they had seen how I had been treated for years and were surprised I had stayed as long as I did. As my final day approached, I realized how much institutional knowledge I held. Files only, I knew how to find client relationships I had carefully nurtured, processes I had developed. I documented everything meticulously, not out of loyalty to the company anymore, but out of a sense of professional integrity. On my last day, no one organized a goodbye lunch or even bought a cake. I packed my personal belongings into a single box, left my keys and company phone on my desk, and walked out without a word. No one tried to stop me. My first weeks at Meridian were like breathing fresh air after years in a smoky room. My ideas were not just heard, but implemented. My experience was valued. Alan, the owner, introduced me as the guy who will take us to the next level at my first company meeting. I threw myself into my new role, determined to prove they had made the right choice in hiring me. The work was challenging but fulfilling in a way it had not been for years at Winters. I found myself looking forward to Monday mornings rather than dreading them. 2 months after I left, news from my old company began to trickle in through mutual connections in the industry. Winters construction was struggling. The Harrington project was already behind schedule and over budget. 2 major clients had complained about quality issues. Employee turnover was increasing. They tried to replace you with 3 different people, Marcus told me over beers one Friday. He had stayed at Winters but kept me updated. None of them can do what you did. How is Travis handling the Harrington development? I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral. Marcus snorted. How do you think he shows up to meetings unprepared, makes promises they cannot keep, and spends more time taking Jessica to lunch than reviewing plans? Robert Harrington is not happy. I felt no joy at this news, just a distant sadness. I had spent so many years trying to prop up the family business, trying to compensate for Travis's shortcomings, that hearing about their struggles still affected me, and the truck, I could not help asking. Crashed it 2 weeks ago. Backed into a concrete pylon at the country club. Tens of thousands in damage. 3 months after I had left on a rainy Tuesday evening, much like the night of the engagement dinner, my phone rang. It was my father's number. I stared at it for several rings before finally answering. Hello, Brant. My father's voice sounded tired, older somehow. We need to talk. I am listening. A long pause. We need your help. The Harrington project is in trouble. Real trouble. Travis is in over his head, and the client is threatening to pull the contract. If that happens, he did not need to finish. If Winters lost the Harrington contract, the company might not survive. It was too big. Too much had been invested in securing it. What exactly are you asking me to do, Dad? Another pause. Would you consider coming back? We can talk about a better position, better compensation. The old me would have jumped at the chance to be the family hero once again. The new me knew better. I am not leaving Meridian, I said firmly, but I might be able to help as a consultant. A consultant, he sounded confused. Yes. I will need to clear it with my boss first, but I could potentially provide some guidance to help get the project back on track. For a fee, of course. You would charge your own family. There was the familiar note of accusation in his voice. This is business, Dad. You taught me that. After a moment, he sighed. Fine. Whatever it takes. How soon can you start? I spoke with Alan the next morning. To my surprise, he was supportive of the idea. Family is complicated, he said. But this could be good for you getting some closure. Just do not let them pull you back in permanently. You are too valuable to us. The meeting was set for that Friday afternoon at the Winters construction office. Walking through those doors again felt strange, like visiting a childhood home now occupied by strangers. Familiar, yet somehow not mine anymore. My mother hugged me tightly when I arrived, whispering, "Thank you for coming in my ear." My father shook my hand formally as if I were any other business associate. Travis looked both relieved and resentful, his eyes not quite meeting mine. Also present was Robert Harrington, Jessica's father, and the client whose project was in jeopardy. He nodded to me with what looked like respect. "Let us get down to business," my father said once everyone was seated in the conference room. "Brant, we need your expertise to get this project back on schedule." "Before we begin," I said, placing a folder on the table, "I have some terms." "Terms," my father echoed. "Yes, my consulting agreement. Standard industry rates plus a few specific conditions." Travis scoffed. "You cannot be serious. Completely serious. The first condition is that I deal directly with Robert on all major decisions." I turned to Jessica's father. "No offense, but I need to cut through family dynamics to get this project on track." Robert Harrington smiled slightly. "None taken." Second, Travis steps back from day-to-day management of the project. He can remain as client liaison if you wish, but operations need new leadership. "Now wait just a minute," Travis began. But our father cut him off. "Let him finish. Third, I want acknowledgement of the reality here. I left because my contributions were consistently undervalued, while Travis was consistently overvalued. I do not need apologies, but I do need everyone at this table to recognize that pattern so we can move forward productively." The room fell silent. My father looked like he wanted to argue, but Robert Harrington spoke first. "I think those are reasonable terms," he said. "From what I have gathered, Brant was the operational backbone of your company for years. If his consulting can save this project, his conditions seem more than fair." My father struggled visibly, his pride warring with practical necessity. Finally, he nodded. "Agreed." Over the next month, I spent evenings and weekends salvaging the Harrington project. I brought in scheduling tools I had learned at Meridian, reorganized work crews, and renegotiated with suppliers. Slowly but surely, the project got back on track. Working with my family again was different this time. With clear boundaries in place, and my own successful career to return to the old dynamics, had less power over me. Travis initially resisted my leadership, but backed down when both our father and Robert Harrington supported my decisions. The most surprising change was in my father. Without me there as the reliable son who would fix everything, he had been forced to see Travis's limitations clearly for the first time. One evening, as we reviewed updated projections in his office, he said something I never thought I would hear. "I was wrong about a lot of things, Brant. I see that now." I looked up from the spreadsheet, not sure I had heard correctly. "The company nearly fell apart without you." He continued, rubbing his forehead tiredly. "I never realized how much you were holding together. I took it for granted." "Yes, you did," I said simply. "Your brother has some strengths, but he is not you. He never will be." He looked at me directly. I should have seen the difference sooner. It was not quite an apology, but from my father it was monumental. We still had a long way to go, but it was a start. By the time my consulting work was complete, the Harrington project was back on budget and only slightly behind schedule. Meridian had been so impressed with my ability to balance both responsibilities that they promoted me to senior director with a substantial raise. Winters Construction hired a professional project manager to replace me permanently, someone with no family ties but considerable experience. Travis remained involved, but in a role better suited to his actual abilities rather than my father's inflated perception of them. My relationship with my family began to heal slowly and with occasional setbacks. We established new boundaries based on mutual respect rather than obligation. I had Sunday dinner with them once a month and occasionally consulted on complex projects. Travis, humbled by the near disaster of the Harrington development, gradually became more responsible. As for the truck, it was eventually repaired and assigned to the new project manager based on business need, exactly as company policy had always officially stated. Looking back now, the gift of that truck to Travis was the wake-up call I needed. It forced me to confront the painful truth that had been in front of me for years. No amount of hard work or dedication would ever make my family value me appropriately, as long as I accepted their terms. Sometimes the people closest to us are the least able to see our true worth. It is not because they do not love us, but because familiar patterns become invisible over time. My father could not see what he was doing because it was what he had always done. Travis could not appreciate my contributions because he had never known the company without me holding it together behind the scenes. It took me leaving, truly walking away, for anything to change. Had I stayed swallowing my pride and resentment once again, nothing would have improved. The cycle would have continued indefinitely, with me growing more bitter and my potential diminishing year by year. The greatest lesson I learned was that sometimes loving yourself means walking away from people who cannot value you properly, even when those people are family. It does not mean you stop loving them. It means you refuse to accept less than you deserve. Today I am thriving at Meridian. My family and I have a relationship based on choice rather than obligation. The pain of that unfair gift has faded, replaced by gratitude for the clarity it brought me. Have you ever had to walk away from something or someone to finally be appreciated, or stayed too long hoping things would change? Share your story in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more stories about finding your worth, even when those closest to you cannot see it. Thank you for listening, and remember, your value does not decrease based on someone's inability to see your worth.